Welcome to Wayne's World Garage. I'm not at the sawmill, but check this out. It's a welder. It's a Lincoln welder. It's a Thunderbolt, AC/DC. If you look at the label on this thing, it says it right here, input, volts, AC, 460 volts, AC. kW doesn't say, amps, 23.7. Well, what good is it? Somebody gave it to Alan, one of the sawmill guys. You remember Alan? He's on every sawmill video we do almost. Somebody owed Alan some money, so he said, here, I'll give you the welder. And Alan said, sure, might be fun to play with a welder. And he looks at it, he says, I'm not so sure. And I looked at it and says, I'm not so sure either. Thing is 460 volts. What good is a 460 volt welder? Single phase? Frankly, I've never heard of that. I've got 230 volts, 240 volts, 120 volts. I know 3-phase 208 volts and all that stuff. But this is a single phase welder, according to this little piece of thing up here. But I got to looking into it, and let me show you what I discovered, because it's a little bit strange. So if you look down here at the fan, I'm looking at the fan very carefully, and it says 230 volts, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, well, okay, 230 volts, and that's what it shows in the schematic. But I look at the black and the white wire, and the black and white wire come right here to basically the AC input. Well, if I put 460 volts on it, that little fan's going to spin pretty quick, or it's going to make a little bit of smoke. It's going to burn up. I'm starting to think maybe it's not really 460 volts, because this guy wouldn't have had 460 volts at his house. I sent an email to Miller Electric in Appleton, Wisconsin, and this guy Kevin Shue, master service technician for commercial stuff, sent me an email back, and he said, hey, it's 460 volts and you can't change it by changing the taps. Still didn't make any sense. So I said, I got another idea. I'm not going to blow this thing up if I put 220 volts on it, because it's really, if it's 460, it'll just put out half the voltage. So I said, hey, Kevin, dude, do me a favor. What are the open circuit voltages on this thing? And he was kind enough. He said, okay, AC low, 72 to 76 volts. AC high, 67 to 57 to 61 volts. And DC, 70 to 75. So what I did is I just wired it up to my 220 volt plug. And I said, well, let's see what happens when I turn it on. Let's see if we get any smoke out of this thing. And here's what happens. No smoke. How good is that? And the fan's running just fine, like it's supposed to. It's blowing hot air, just like me. So I said, okay, well, let's go check out the voltage. So I put my trusty Fluke 87 voltage, AC voltage, and let's check it out. It says 78 point, whatever it is, about 79 volts. Hopefully you can see that. Well, it's a couple volts high, but it's not really crazy high. Well, let me check the high voltage side. 58 volts. Well, that's 57 to 61. Well, that seems like a win-win to me. So I said, okay, well, let me check out the DC voltage on this thing. "71 volts. It's supposed to be 70 to 75 volts. I've got the little schematic here. It's not quite wired up according to the schematic, because it shows on 460 volts, they tap the transformer partway down, probably halfway down, to get 230 volts to run the little fan. This is not the way this thing is wired up. But it certainly looks like the original transformer. This certainly looks like the original transformer to me. Doesn't look like it's been modified. It's got an inductor and some rectifiers. I don't know if it's going to work on DC. That's the inductor, the bottom thing down here. See that? L inductor. But we're going to check it out. I think it works because I show DC voltage on it, and it's within range of what it's supposed to be. So, how cool is that? So, what's the next step here? Well, I went to Jeff Bezos, and I ordered a power plug for this, so it's the same as my 50 amp plugs, my NEMA 60s or whatever they call them, on my welders, and we're going to try this thing out tomorrow, and that'll be really exciting. I think it's going to work. I have no idea. I was looking at some of the wires they put on these things. These aren't hot now, and I did notice it looks like they filed them down here, so check this out. So it looks like possibly they did modify this, at least with a cord. I'm not quite sure. But anyway, and the transformer windings, it says 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's got 4 different windings on it. Doesn't make a lot of sense to me, but I think we've got a good welder here, and Alan's gonna be happy man. Alan's gonna be learning how to do some stick welding here. Check out what this thing came with. It came with cartridge, 81 millimeter, high explosive rounds, M374, with a fuse for mortars, M1 and M29. So I've got mortar rounds. Well, at least that's what it says. I've got mortar rounds. Or maybe not mortar rounds, but welding rods. Check this out. And there's tons of them. There's probably $500 worth of welding rods. These look like 7018s. They are. They're good round. These are good rods. I used to use these a lot. So, Alan, you got lots of... You don't have mortars. I'm very, very sorry. Mortars would have been fun if we had some mortar rounds because 4th of July is coming up. But you got welding rods instead in mortar tubes, used mortar tubes. This is the story. I'm sticking with it. Hope you enjoyed this. Let's check out this welder. If anybody knows anything about this welder, leave a comment. I went on the line and everybody says, nope, it's not changeable, not changeable, not changeable. Throw it out. It's worth a couple $100. I say, well, seeing how the fan was running on 230 volts and it runs on 230, my output voltages are exactly what they're supposed to be. I think we've got a winner here. Take care and thanks for watching. And what do you think of my new intro? My buddy Jared helped me out and do a little bit of an intro, try and get some more views on this show. It's not all sawmill. Take care, guys. Thanks again.